Hey y'all, it's entry number 6 of this offseason series where we discuss a different player's fantasy value each day as a group. We are another day closer to the start of the 2022 NFL season. Each day we'll drop a name, go through some positives and some concerns in their fantasy profile, and then I'll give my personal opinion at the end. Today's discussion will be on Najee Harris, running back, Pittsburgh Steelers. We'll start with the positives of Najee Harris. To start, Najee Harris is a true dual threat back that put up a stat line of 307 carries, 1,200 rushing yards, and 7 rushing touchdowns on the ground, and 74 receptions on 94 targets for 467 receiving yards and 3 receiving touchdowns through the air during his rookie year. During his college career, Najee Harris also showed that he was a true dual threat back and capable of putting up good numbers. During the 2019 college football season, he took 209 carries for 1,224 rushing yards and 13 rushing touchdowns on the ground, and caught 27 passes for 304 receiving yards and 7 receiving touchdowns through the air. In the 2020 college football season, he had 251 carries for 1,466 rushing yards and 26 rushing touchdowns on the ground, catching 43 passes for 425 receiving yards and 4 receiving touchdowns through the air as well. By being capable both on the ground and through the air, it raises the floor and ceiling of Najee Harris in your fantasy leagues. The second positive with Najee Harris is that he's a workhorse and has a lack of competition in his backfield. Najee Harris was second among NFL running backs during the 2021 NFL season in carries with 307, and first among NFL running backs in targets with 94 according to Player Profiler. He's by far the most talented running back on the Pittsburgh Steelers depth chart that includes Benny Snell, Anthony McFarland, and Trey Edmonds, and it's likely that he sees one of the largest workloads in the NFL once again in the 2022 NFL season. The third thing that we'll look at here is that the offensive line should be slightly better in Pittsburgh during the 2022 NFL season. The Pittsburgh Steelers offensive line only generated 0.9 yards before contact on average during the 2021 NFL season, according to Pro Football Focus. This ranked 29th. In 2022, they will bring back 3 of the same starters from the 2021 offensive line, in left tackle Dan Moore Jr., left guard Kevin Dotson, and right tackle Chukwuma Okorafor, and make slight upgrades at center, going from Kendrick Green to Mason Cole, and right guard, going from Trey Turner to James Daniels. Even though there's a good chance that this group is only average or slightly below average in 2022, the bottom line is that this group should be a little better on paper going into the 2022 NFL season. Now we'll move on to some of the concerns with Najee Harris. To start, we'll talk about the quarterback change. The Pittsburgh Steelers will have a new quarterback leading their team after Big Ben Roethlisberger retired. Going into the 2022 NFL season, the team will have a quarterback competition between rookie Kenny Pickett and former second overall pick in the 2017 NFL Draft, Mitch Trubisky, to see who will be the 2022 starter. This change in general uncertainty about who will be the starter makes it a little more difficult to project what we should expect out of the Steelers' offense as a whole, and there's a chance that they don't throw as many passes Najee's way as he saw in 2021, and he gets fewer than the 94 targets in year 2. Next up on the concerns with Najee Harris is whether or not he can match 2021's receiving production. Najee Harris saw about a fifth of his 2021 receiving production during Week 3 against the Cincinnati Bengals, where he caught 14 passes on 19 targets for 102 receiving yards. He did not see more than 7 targets in any other game during the 2021 NFL season. In addition, he posted a drop rate of 7.4% in 2021, which was below average according to RotoWire. He's not a liability or anything in the passing game, but it doesn't seem likely that he builds much upon his 2021 receiving numbers for the 2022 NFL season. The last concern with Najee Harris's fantasy profile is his red zone usage. Najee Harris was a top fantasy back in 2021, but his red zone usage left something to be desired for fantasy players. He had 29 carries inside the 20-yard line, which tied for 24th, 17 carries inside the 10-yard line, which tied for 20th, and 10 carries inside the 5-yard line, which tied for 14th among all NFL players according to Pro Football Reference. He's going to need more red zone opportunities in order to make a strong case for challenging for the #1 overall fantasy back spot in 2022. Some additional information on Najee Harris. According to Pro Football Focus, Ben Roethlisberger checked down on just 5% of his dropbacks in 2021, the 10th lowest in the NFL. During his 175-game college career, Pittsburgh Steelers offensive coordinator Matt Canada's running back room averaged 26.62 carries, 135.95 rushing yards, and 1.33 rushing touchdowns on the ground. Through the air, they averaged 2.66 receptions, 26.22 receiving yards, and 0.19 receiving touchdowns per game. The longest rush of Najee Harris's college career was for 53 yards against Notre Dame his senior year. The longest rush of his NFL career so far has been a 37-yard run against the Cleveland Browns. Najee Harris posted a broken tackle rate of 15%, above average in 2021 according to RotoWire. Najee Harris evaded 106 tackles during the 2021 NFL season, which was the second best among NFL running backs according to Player Profiler. Najee Harris scored under 10 fantasy points in 4 out of 17 games in full PPR formats during the 2021 NFL season according to fantasy data. He had 7 out of 17 games with 20 plus fantasy points in full PPR. In total fantasy points, Najee Harris finished as RB4 in standard with 226.7 total points, 13.3 fantasy points per game, RB4 in 0.5 PPR formats with 263.7 total points and 15.5 fantasy points per game, and RB3 in PPR formats with 300.7 total points, 17.7 fantasy points per game. Personal opinion: Najee Harris is going off the board as RB5, about pick 9 overall on ESPN, and RB6, about pick 7 overall on Yahoo. In my opinion, he's one of the safer running backs you can draft this year because he's relatively young at 24 years old, with a little more tread on his tires than many other early round backs. And he's going to get a bell cow workload in both the passing game and the ground game. He's going in the right range. Maybe a couple RB spots too low right now in my opinion. I would probably move him up over Derrick Henry and Dalvin Cook on Yahoo. But the bottom line is that he's a solid first round pick and a great building block to have for your team in 2022. For each of these entries, there will be a link to a charitable cause or foundation. Najee Harris's My Cause My Cleats for the 2021 NFL season was for the Bigger Picture Foundation, which helps people who are experiencing homelessness. As from the website, the Bigger Picture Foundation focuses on assisting underserved families in reaching their potential and goals. The foundation's hope is to provide tools and assistance to families facing challenging times. Some of the key areas of focus will be on education, homelessness, addressing hunger, and utilizing sports as a platform to develop life skills. And that's it for today's entry. If you have a player that you'd like to see covered in the video format of the A Player a Day series, drop a comment below. Thank you.